Janet Adams, you have one of the most impactful careers, from big corporations to innovation and as well a lot of social impact work.
I won a scholarship to Imperial College in petroleum geosciences. I decided to take a technology-oriented career in financial services, and I spent 20 years or so working in banking. So I did my master's in artificial intelligence. For my master's thesis in AI, I reviewed regulatory and conduct implications of artificial intelligence in the financial services. I developed an ethical framework for AI in financial services.
What is SingularityNET for people that don't know?
SingularityNET was founded in 2017 by Dr. Ben Goertzel to develop AGI and decentralized AI for the benefit of all humanity. We have around about 100 AI scientists working directly for us. We've been developing our meta-functional programming language, the language to translate thought into machine code. Along with our OpenCog Hyperon system, which is our core AGI platform, underpinned by our distributed atom space, very advanced knowledge graph, we have allocated over $7.1 million across 143 projects with contributions from more than 1,500 innovators globally. It's a diverse, inclusive, community-voted program to grow our decentralized AI and AGI initiatives.
All these technologies is bringing a massive amount of productivity, but at the same time it's creating a lot of fear and creating as well what you call AI arms race and AI divide.
We need to make sure that the AGI we develop is for the benefit of everybody. If it's all being developed by one dominant socioeconomic groups, we're in with such a good chance of winning this AGI race.
Welcome to the Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show. Once again in partnership with businessabc.net, citiesabc.com, and wisdomia.ai. We keep portraying and featuring global personalities, and I've been privileged to have in this series some of the most influential personalities of technology and business in the world. And one of the things I try to do is always look at the people that are bringing a lot of basis of innovation. And how can we foster with that innovation new solutions for our present and our future? And as well, how we can actually contribute to better research and better solutions for our society. Today, I'm particularly excited to welcome to our series Janet Adams, the COO of SingularityNET, leading the operations of SingularityNET Foundation and the growth of the SNET network and ecosystem. Janet is also the board director of the Artificial Superintelligence ASI Alliance. She has represented SingularityNET and the ASI Alliance at various international events, including the AI for Good Global Summit, IFA Berlin, and more recently, the Global AI Show 2025. SingularityNET recently integrated the FET ASI token into its platform that powers a decentralized AI ecosystem, allowing users to access AI services, participate in governance decisions, stake tokens for network security, and make transactions across multiple blockchains. Janet has also been a part of Deep Funding, SingularityNET's community-driven crypto accelerator program, leading AI and blockchain initiatives across multiple vertical markets, including robotics, biotech, gaming and metaverse, media, DeFi, music and arts. Janet was with the team that launched the world's first humanoid robot front-end band, Desdemona's Dream Band, at NAMM Festival in LA in June 2022. Previously, Janet has held multiple leadership roles at banks like Aviva, TSB Bank, HSBC, and RBS, focusing on strategic projects, AI, automation, and process optimization. She was also involved in risk management, regulatory affairs, and credit risk functions in the banking sector. Her published works focus on the ethics and regulation of AI, and she is a strong advocate for diversity, inclusion, and equality in technology.
Janet Adams, it's an honor to have you here, and I'm very excited because you have one of the most, I would say, impactful careers that I saw, because you have from big corporations to innovation, and as well a lot of social impact work. I've been touching so much different areas. And right now, of course, you are leading one of the fast growing, I would say, research and AI organizations in the world, but as well making a lot of DO touch. So I'm very excited about that. So to start, a bit about you. Your background, you have a lot of different uniqueness, and I would like to go probably to your childhood. I always like to start with that. So one thing that in your education made who you are today.
Dinis, thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and an honor to work with you and your teams. I know yourself and my brilliant visionary boss, Dr. Ben Goertzel, go back a long way, maybe 10 years. And one of the things that's one of the greatest joys of my job, and there are many, but one of them is the incredible people I get to meet through Ben. And you're absolutely clearly a leading pioneer across technology and many aspects of helping the world move forward through this AI revolution. So it's a real honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So one thing from my childhood that influenced me most, I would say, probably was my science teacher at my school, and my chemistry teacher, to be precise, and she then went on to be the overall principal of the school. It was a Catholic school in Ireland, in the southwest of Ireland, and she instilled in me my passion for science. I couldn't get enough of chemistry. I couldn't get enough of physics as well at the time. And she was the inspiration for my curious mind and the inspiration for my 3 science degrees that I then completed. So thanks to Mrs. Morden from Laurel Hill FCJ for fueling my curiosity at a young age and just giving me a passion to continuously learn and grow and change.
That's very special, and thank you for sharing with us. I always like to demystify these moments, because I think people are all going through a lot of moments, and sometimes we forget the humanity that is in us and the people that made us who we are. So your career is really inspiring, because you have definitely, from a scientific background in science, like you just mentioned, but as well, then you went from a lot of different areas, from your thesis on explainable artificial intelligence for banking regulatory compliance. And then you started a career in the financial sector. You work with Aviva, you work with big financial organizations, and then you went in very big leadership positions in HSBC and TSB Bank. So a bit of this career from that childhood to become a global leader, and then in 2021 coming to SingularityNET.
Well, thank you, Dinis, and thank you for your interest in me. One part of my career that I like to mention, because I think it provides hope and inspiration for people who are not in science or technology or banking roles, is that I actually started as a hairdresser. Age 16, I started as an apprentice hairdresser working in a hair salon in Limerick, earning at the time £11 a week for my apprenticeship. And I worked as a hairdresser. I mean, the common thread for me is always probably creativity. And people. During my years as a hairdresser, which was maybe three years, I learned to talk to anybody all the time about anything. And I think that's actually brilliant executive training to go through. And it was during my times as a hairdresser that I developed a passion for organic farming and the environment. And I ended up one day sitting in the hair salon with nothing to do, reading a magazine and seeing a course in environmental earth sciences due to start at the University of Greenwich in London. I applied for that, and the following week found myself on an environmental earth sciences degree. Lots and lots of understanding from the university about my background. I had completed my leaving certificate. I had done the end of schooling exams while working as a hairdresser, and that's another aspect of my career is dual running education and work, because I'm a worker. I love to work, but I also love to educate myself as well. And during my degree, I had the opportunity to work in Holland in the brilliant flower industry and vegetable industry and agriculture in Holland. And if anybody knows agriculture in Holland, they have pioneered, they're world leading in really, really super efficient processes and process management. And that gave me a passion for process management and teamwork. So all of these early experiences, which, you know, pretty much anybody can go through, really shaped who I became when I grew up as an executive. So I did my career in my degree in environmental earth sciences, which then translated into geology. I transitioned onto geology because I had a love for evolutionary sciences. I had a love for the planet. I had a love for the realization that we as humans, being where we are at this moment, are at the front of whatever it is, 5 billion years of evolution, and that nothing is fixed, nothing is set, nothing is predetermined. We're at the front, and we're creating, and we're leading, and we're in charge. We're not just puppets to some grand scheme, but we actually are responsible for our own evolution as individuals and for our evolution as a species. And we're responsible for the other species who depend on us because of our advanced cognitive abilities. I then did a master's degree at Imperial College in London. I won a scholarship to Imperial College in petroleum geosciences. And during my petroleum geosciences degree at Imperial College, I fell in love with AI. So this is 2005 at this point. Maybe 1995. I'm getting my decades mixed up now. 1995 at this point. And the UK was an incredible place for sciences at that time in that decade. We had Richard Dawkins published The Selfish Gene. We had Stephen Hawkins with A Brief History of Time. We had James Gleick and the chaos theory. I'm not sure if he was a British scientist. In America, there was Stephen Jay Gould, who came up with the theory of punctuated equilibrium as a theory of evolution. And it was a really bustling, thriving time for the sciences. And I came to fall in love with both. I was both in love with physics and black holes and how the universe operates. But I also discovered AI through some of my colleagues at Imperial College and at University of Greenwich. Some very inspiring scientists that I had the opportunity to meet and work with. And so when I came out of my degrees, I decided to take a technology-oriented career in financial services rather than going to geology as an industry. And I spent 20 years or so working in banking and came up through the ranks from project manager, business analyst, program manager, to ultimately being the person responsible for the rollout of large-scale global products at the Royal Bank of Scotland, large-scale global technology projects. I rolled out their corporate internet banking systems, and then moved on to work in risk after the credit crisis of 2008. again, it was my curiosity. I just wanted to know, why did this all go so terribly wrong? How could this all have gone so terribly wrong? And what can I do to help avoid this ever happening again? So that led me to 10 years or so working in risk and regulation. And then in 2017, I had a pivotal moment. Shall I tell you about that, or would you like to?
Yes, please. No, this is amazing. Actually, I think your career is a film. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's what my mum says, but she would, who is a great, fantastic, amazing role model to me. So in 2017, I was working at HSBC Bank, and I was responsible for conduct and pricing across conduct risk and pricing across all of the corporate bank at HSBC, which covered at the time about 64 markets. So teams in 64 countries working to implement conduct, ethical, good standards for customers. I always had a passion for making life better for customers, particularly small businesses. I've always had a passion for the hardworking men and women who put food on their children's table and drive the backbone of the economy. So I was working there, and then two of the major consultancies came to me to offer me some free consulting on artificial intelligence. And that got me thinking, why are they so interested? Why are they so interested in my data? At the time, I was on the board of a UK charity, and the chairman of the board is a doctor of AI at Amazon Web Services. And after a board meeting one evening, I asked him, I said, this was July 2017. So why is everyone excited about AI at the moment? And what's deep learning? And what's it got to do with machine learning? How does it all work? And in classic film material story, he drew deep learning and machine learning on a napkin for me. He got his phone out, he spoke to Siri, he said, we've had breakthroughs in that Siri can now hear you, or Alexa, or whatever the Google Assistant, whatever phone he was using. We can now distinguish voices better from the background. We can now run AI that can intelligently listen to humans and give a response. And he sent me after that meeting, he sent me a Harvard Business Review article, long Harvard HBR, big article of its time in 2017. And the article concluded, it was about the rise of AI in industry. And it concluded at the end that AI won't replace managers anytime soon, but managers who use AI will replace managers who don't. I thought, okay, that's a strong steer that I need to really know about this technology, which I'd had a passion for and had tried to use in banking a couple of times through my career, but it was too early for its time. And then lastly, I listened to a podcast by Andrew Ng, who professor at Stanford, who founded Coursera. And in that podcast, he said two things. One was, he said, there's no shortage of AI resources, but there's a shortage of executives who understand AI and can apply it. And then the researcher asked him, he said, what would you advise your children to learn, to study at university? And he said, I wouldn't advise them to study any particular topic. I would advise them that now is a time of lifelong learning. The days where you did one career for one period and that was it for your whole life, those days are over. You need to be continuously prepared to evolve, to update, and to educate yourself. So I got a blinding flash of inspiration, decided to do a master's degree in artificial intelligence. I had researched them before. When I got to where I was driving, I was researching them from the car park, and applied that night for some master's degrees in artificial intelligence. And through the mentorship and guidance of Professor Hani Hagras at University of Essex in the UK, I got accepted onto the master's degree. And while working full-time at HSBC, thanks to my super understanding bosses, I've been very, very fortunate to work for bosses and leaders who have supported my career. I think that's a terrifically, I mean, that's the most important thing during a career, really. And he supported my boss there, super chap, Karen McNeese, supported me to do a master's part-time. So I did my master's from 2017 to 2019 in artificial intelligence. And what I was able to do was bring everything that I understood about risk and regulation in financial services, which was a lot at this point in time, to my research. And for my master's thesis in AI, I reviewed regulatory and conduct implications of artificial intelligence in the financial services. I developed a ethical framework for AI in financial services, which still holds absolutely true today. I advised a number of the world's regulators in Singapore, in the UK, in the US, and I presented the findings of my thesis, which today, in 2025, now 6 years later, would be quite commonplace. But at the time, it was very revolutionary, very insightful, and very practical. I could say these are the kinds of AI that you can apply to these kinds of use cases, both across wholesale banking, investment banking, and retail banking. And this is the applicability, and this is the risk-based regulatory approach to take to overseeing AI in financial services.
This is an amazing, and for people listening to us, of course, this is before AI became the hype that it is now. And there's only talking about some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. Royal Bank of Scotland, at a certain point before the financial crisis, was the biggest bank in the planet. And HSBC is still one of the biggest in the planet. So I just want to touch that, because bringing, first of all, this level of innovation and the regulatory framework to these institutions is not a simple task. And I only work in a bank, so I understand what you're talking, and I know how complex it is. So I would like, just for our audience, because I know most of people are still struggling. Of course, my audience is quite tech savvy, but people are still getting into AI. And like you, I've been in the journey of AI. So just one note here in terms of the work you did in terms of digital transformation within these organizations, because we're talking about three of the major banks and Aviva as well. You had a massive work as well in Aviva. What would be if you would look at the success rate, that of course this is a massive amount of work, but as well making organizations lead and as well making them be prepared for this is something that I would say most of the banks are still not done after, now that is hype. Now is more probably fear of missing. So what would be the areas that I know that you are very persistent, diligent, but I would like to see if you can somehow share with our audience and people listening to us, what would be the areas that you felt that were mainly the success of what you did?
That were mainly the success. So in terms of innovation in banking, the challenge with bringing artificial intelligence into the financial services industry is education. And because AI is a pretty complex topic, it's not something that can be really skimmed or understood to a level that makes an accountable executive comfortable to implement new sciences and new technologies in banking. So I rolled out a number of, like I said, internet banking for Royal Bank of Scotland. Lots of process automation, workflow automation, robotic process automation. And in keeping with, I had this discussion 2 weeks ago with one of the biggest MDs in one of the consultancies. In keeping with the rest of the industry, what we found in financial services is that Lean Six Sigma, workflow automation, process automation, robotic automation is very, very difficult to achieve successfully in a way that achieves the full ROI of the envisaged project. And this is still the case today. There are a number of reasons behind that. The probably, I would say, in my direct experience of implementing automation, the issue is the long tail and the fat tail. Do you know what the long tail and the fat tail are? Dinis, I'll explain it for you.
I know, but explain to the audience.
I'll
Yeah.
explain it for your viewers. So let's say you automate a process, and let's say that process is running whatever 1,000 1,000 times a day, whether it's absorbing accounting data to produce month-end reports, or whether it's transferring data from one system to another system, which you get an awful lot of in banking because so much of banking has grown by acquisition. There are many, many systems, thousands, hundreds of thousands of systems all working around the globe together. So let's say you have a robot processing 1,000 tasks, jobs a day. The long tail refers to the kinds of exceptions that robot can't handle because it hasn't seen it it hasn't been trained. In those days, this would be just straight straight if then programming without intelligent automation. And the fat tail would be when there's a huge amount of one or two or three types of exception that the robot can't handle. So the long tail and the fat tail are probably the biggest detractors of value from any robotic automation. And really, you only get to see and learn that long tail and that fat tail when you have the opportunity to run new cases through at volume. You can't necessarily spot this during the training and testing period. And so the challenge that organizations have today, that's one, but the second one is education and incentive. If you look at how our very senior banking executives are incentivized, and this probably applies to all the other industries as well. I just haven't worked in them myself to know. But by the time they get to be at a very senior level, chances are they've got a big pension, they've got big bonuses, they've got deferred bonuses, and the risk of something going wrong is higher than the reward of something going well. And so this in itself as an incentivization system doesn't really incentivize bravery. And it's our regulatory systems as well, because the regulators rightly need to be sure that our customers are being looked after and that there are no mistakes. Because mistakes, one single little mistake, one hallucination from an LLM to a client. Let's say you have a client who's in debt, could be feeling suicidal, and an LLM gets their bank balance wrong, or gives them a bit of hallucinated bad news, then the results of that could be devastating for that one client. And so I think it's fair and right that the regulators do keep and hold financial services executives to account. So all of these issues mean that basically mass large scale robotic automation and workflow process automation across the financial services industry has not happened, even though we can see theoretically it's possible with artificial intelligence. And what we're seeing now, we're seeing great use of chatbots for simple repeated queries. Anything that's complex, anything that is sensitive needs to be handed over to a human. We're seeing legal uses in the legal department, so natural language processing, text generation, text automation. We're seeing some next best customers, so some identification of customers, or even like useful use cases like identification of where a complaint is likely to arise yet, and then actually being able to go and tackle the root of the complaint so the customer doesn't need to complain. And so there are some few small, I would say, and credit risk and anti-money laundering, of course. Less so credit risk still needs quite a lot of human intervention for the most part in a very regulated environment, but anti-money laundering and fraud identification has benefited. But large-scale process automation just has never fulfilled its potential. And the reason I'm talking about this, I've had a passion for workflow process automation since I was in Imperial College. In fact, I read a very defining article about how Daewoo had massively reorganized all of its production and brought loads of benefits and made all the staff happier and, you know, made a really big, strong company. We are now on the brink, and we'll talk about this when we talk about SingularityNET technology, but we're now on the brink of really intelligent AI that's not just deep neural networks running statistics, because with deep neural networks running statistics, it's difficult. We can run other processes on top of the outcome to interpret why they came up with their decision, but you can never know for sure why that deep neural network made the decision it made or gave the answer it gave. But we're now on the brink of smarter technology that can create and learn outside of its training data and that can explain itself with neurosymbolic methods. And one example of this we produced at SingularityNET is called our Iris AI agent, AIRIS. So Iris is an AI agent that's currently deployed in Minecraft, but it has the ability to learn from its environment. So it can go into a new environment and learn from it. And it has two very important features. One is it can predict states which are outside of its training data set. And the second is that when it learns its environment, it produces rules, the rules of that environment. Now, if we come back to financial services, if an AI agent learns all the rules to tackle this fat tail and this long tail, right? If it learns the rules, but then produces those in a suite of outputted rules, you can then take those rules to the compliance function, to the business function, to the regulator. You can tune them if you need to tune them. You can, you know, decide what constitutes way too much of an exception that we would not allow these rules to apply to. And you can then apply that automated learning AI agent to robotic process automation in banking. And I'm currently in discussion with a number of the big consultancies about taking this technology along with our very, very advanced neurosymbolic graph database, our hypergraph distributed atom space database, to really start to utilize neurosymbolic semantic links between nodes in a knowledge graph, retrieve them at speed, and turn out better, more transparent, and ultimately more flexible and more intelligent decisions. So we're on the brink of this now, Dinis. Within the next, and I'm so excited about it, having worked in this for all my career, I'm so excited that we're now at a time where all those dreams I had back at university of how we could really dramatically increase productivity in industries, it's about to happen. And I guess you'll probably come on to the scary parts of this kind of evolution.
I'll go there, but I want to keep on your career, and I think there's a lot of questions, and thank you for this part. And this is a massive breakthrough, and like you said, it shows the fast innovation path and velocity. I think a lot of things, even that I was discussing with Ben 10 years ago, now they're happening in a massive scale. And of course, if you look at Ben Gorsley, which I profiled a couple of times in this channel, of course, he coined the term AGI, which partly you're touching superintelligence. So let's come back to your career, because I want to keep a flow here. So from this work in working with some of the top financial organizations in the world, highly centralized and as well very corporate, you changed completely in 2021 to start the position as COO of SingularityNET, which is a research tech decentralized AI and blockchain organization, and where you lead the operations and as well the SingularityNET Foundation and the growth of SNET network and ecosystem. So first of all, for people listening to us, because I think it's important, we go very deep, but I would like to see, of course, that shift very radical in your career. And second, what is SingularityNET for people that don't know? I'm sure everyone in my audience should know by now, but sometimes people forget that. And there's all you guys doing a lot of things. So there's SingularityNET, and there's all the ecosystem you're building that is building the technology you just mentioned.
Well, that was such a glorious move for me from the corporate world into entrepreneurial, the entrepreneurial world, into the decentralized world, into crypto, and into the magic of Dr. Ben Goertzel. During my master's degree in February 2018, one of my tutors said to me, "Do you know anything about crypto?" I was like, "Absolutely nothing." So he said, "Well, I'll give you a lesson." A super chap who I'm still in touch with and very fond of. And he gave me a lesson in crypto. And he took me through, I think, 5 different altcoins, of which one of them was AGI, Dr. Ben Goertzel and his team. And so he introduced me to SingularityNET, and I became an AGI holder. It was the first token I purchased back in February 2018, which those of you who know the market will know it was maybe 1 or 2 weeks before a major market correction, but such is the way of things. And I started following Ben Goertzel. I was still doing my master's degree, and that required me to drive about 600 miles a week. And so I was just filling myself with Ben Goertzel's works, with everything I could find from him online, the Joe Rogan podcast, of course. And I just couldn't believe that there was somebody in the world who cared. I cared about small businesses, and he just cared so much about enabling the everyday person to benefit from technology and to benefit from the social uplift that technology provides. So I became a little bit, I was like a total fangirl, joined the Telegram group on the SingularityNET Telegram group. And the following, I never thought I would have the pleasure or the honor of meeting somebody like Dr. Ben Goertzel. To me, he was just this like brilliant scientist muse from another planet. But in 2020, when I was doing a lot of conferences around the world talking about AI and financial services and regulation of AI, the results of my master's thesis, which I published with Professor Hani Hagras. And one of Ben's colleagues reached out to me to say, would I be interested in having a chat with SingularityNET about the potential for AI in banking? And I was just absolutely blown away that I could get to meet Dr. Ben Goertzel, or anyone who even knew him. I never thought at the time I would meet Ben. But he set up a meeting, and it was the first day of COVID lockdown in London. So I was at home in my kitchen using Zoom for the first time. And I had a meeting request come through for Bill Inman, still a super major part of SingularityNET success, now CEO, co-founder of the Twin Protocol digital twin project that we run. That's part of our ecosystem. But anyway, the invitation came through. Dr. Ben Goertzel was on the invitation. And I was telling all my friends and family, this is the craziest thing ever. I've got an invitation with Ben Goertzel to talk to me in my kitchen. I never thought he would turn up, but he did turn up. And we had the most amazing conversation about the nexus between the geological evolutionary sciences and paleontology and the evolution of AI, and the evolution of humanity in the path using AI to take us forward in evolution. So that was brilliant and blew my mind. And then some months later, as COVID deepened and the economic implications of COVID became very, very clear. I was lucky at the time. I worked with, I was working at TSB Bank, and I was able to implement robotic process automation for them to disperse government assisted loans to our customers. I was very passionate about helping people who were struggling during COVID. Anyway, I spoke to one of my friends, Jali Keba Suso, who is a Gambian kora player. Do you know what the kora is, Dinis?
Yes.
Beautiful, my favorite instrument. Anyway, so I spoke to him, and he was saying how difficult COVID was for the West African music community in London, many of whom were friends of mine because I'd had a passion for West African music for about 10 years at this point. And I had the idea of running an AI and West African festival on Zoom where my banking and corporate friends would pay a donation, which would then fund my musician friends to do a gig. And also, bring cultural awareness to the industry. And I emailed a bunch of people, I emailed Ben to say, would he speak at my festival? And he got back to me within an hour to say, yes, he'd love to. He also loves African music. He has an office in Ethiopia. He is a big fan of father of Ethio jazz, Mulatu Askaki, and he'd love to speak at my festival. So Ben was we had 5 weeks, we ran the festival over 5 weeks, and Ben was my headline speaker on the 5th week. And when he and his team came on, and I had a team of volunteers, some of whom now work for me, all of whom I'm still in contact with. Ben's team and our team, we just really, really gelled very well together on our ethics, and we gelled very well on our inspiration for uplifting society, for driving positive change across the planet. And that was how we got to know each other. And some months later, after the SingularityNET Phase 2 vote, the SingularityNET COO position was formed. And I was the lucky person who got to move into decentralized AI, working for who I consider to be the greatest genius and the greatest leader on our planet today, which is the brilliant and amazing Dr. Ben Goertzel. All my family at this point, all my friends, they were all AGI holders. I had eulogized Ben's work. I had told them all, this is going to be amazing. It's the most ethical AI technology leadership on the planet, and the most brilliant technologies are going to do brilliant things. So all of my network were very pleased to see me now taking up a role in the organization and being able to have an influence on the success of the organization going forward as I serve Dr. Ben Goertzel, because that's my role.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And it shows as well the passion you put into things, and as well the dedication, because it's these things, there's been a long ride. So for people listening to us, and I want to touch, because SingularityNET is I think is well known for people like me, and of course for our community, but it's still, I think the work that you guys are doing and bringing, first of all, decentralized and open AI to the world, it's massive, but it comprehends as well a lot of innovation. We're talking about open AI research, and you guys have some of the biggest research in the world, and you touch some of these things. There's a lot of technology that you're building. There's as well the token, which is right now a massive token. And as well, there's even the work of robotics that you guys are doing with this Demona and so forth. So a bit of this ecosystem first. I think a bit understanding, like you mentioned, from the token that was launched in 2017, 18 until now, the new ASI, a bit of this journey and what you want, of course, to share with me and your audience, because this audience, I think we need to know more. And especially, there's a lot of fantastic products, like you mentioned, Iris. There's a lot of fantastic research that it would be good to share, and we'll put all this information highlighted for people listening to us.
Thank you. Well, SingularityNET was founded in 2017 by Dr. Ben Goertzel to develop AGI and decentralized AI for the benefit of all humanity. Ben and his team, some of his team had worked together with him for 30 years. So he brought a team of very, very accomplished scientists and technologists in the space of neurosymbolic AI and artificial general intelligence. I know you spoke to Ben recently and you know him well. Ben had decided age 3 that he was going to build a robot smarter than the robot on Star Trek at the time, whose name escapes me, pre-Data, the original Star Trek series. And he'd had his first attempt at AGI in 1998 with the WebMind engine, which of course was way too early. There wasn't enough data, there wasn't enough bandwidth, enough computing power at that time. So since from 2017 to where we are now, I joined in 2021, and we have doubled down on our focus on our AGI research. So we have around about 100 AI scientists working directly for us. We have more developers working in our community. We have more developers working through our deep funding grant program. And we've been developing our metafunctional programming language, which can be thought of as the language of thought to describe, to translate thought into machine code. And the metafunctional programming language, along with our OpenCog Hyperon system, which is our core AGI platform, underpinned by our distributed atom space, our very, very advanced knowledge graph. These are the fundamental core pillars of our AGI efforts. But we embrace all kinds of AI in our AGI approach. Unlike big tech, unlike OpenAI, who are very, very focused on a deep neural network approach to AGI, we have a different approach which encompasses the best of all of the AI technologies, methods, schools of thought. Evolutionary programming. We're working on predictive coding approach to LLMs. A lot of work on logical systems, motivation systems, and our OpenCog Hyperon platform uniquely brings and allows all of these types of AI to interact with each other, all guided and led in its attention by our distributed atom space and connected where appropriate by our metafunctional programming language. So it's to the best of our knowledge, it's the most advanced AGI tech stack on the planet. It's certainly the most mature AGI tech stack on the planet, because you'll notice that OpenAI changed their mission strategy to be very similar to ours, but only a couple of years ago, to focus on AGI. And all of big tech, and there are some new crypto companies launched to develop AGI, but they're all recent. Ben has been running with the AGI Society, the longest running conference series in the field for, I think it's our 18th year this year that we've been running the AGI Society. So we have access to, and we're connected to, all of the longer, deeper AGI researchers who have had a passion and an interest in the field for the last 2 decades. And an interesting observation I made earlier to Agenta was just who's coming to work alongside us in partnership, is as AGI draws close, and we can talk about how close AGI is and what that's going to mean, but as AGI draws close and the singularity gets nearer and nearer, we're seeing it's almost like a magnetic force at SingularityNET pulling the top AGI researchers. Probably not all of them. There are some who still want a Silicon Valley salary, and that's not what we offer at SingularityNET. But the last really, really top researcher that joined our team, he said he's joining us for two reasons. One is to work with good, kind people with ethics at their heart. But the second is because he wants to be on the winning team. And so we're seeing a great gravitation towards SingularityNET, not just to come and work directly for us, but to work on our deep funding programs, to work on our, to develop with us at our hackathons that we're running in India and in Africa. But we are the only credible AGI contender in the AGI race outside of big tech. And that's not to be derogatory for all the other AI startups who are working on AGI. Good luck to them. Anyone who's working on AGI for the benefit of humanity has my full support. The decentralization movement is extremely important, and the more people we can reach and the more decentralized our technologies can be, the better. So I embrace and support all of the projects in the space. But really, AGI is a massively super hard problem to tackle. And when I look at, we had our top 60 technologists or so, 60 or so technologists together last week for a Hyperon meetup. When I look at the depth, the knowledge, the skill, the diversity of AGI approaches that we are pursuing with these brilliant teams across the planet, I really can't imagine, the two things I can't imagine. One, I can't imagine any other technology company has got that depth of research in so many different AI fields leading to AGI. That's number one. The second thing, I just can't imagine any other scientist being able to span, understand, connect, support, grow, guide, lead, direct such a diverse group of people working on diverse AI approaches in the same way that Ben does. The way he does it, he's just miraculous, his ability to really massively on the spot and continuously understand the deepest technology and the deepest science, maths, and research across multiple disciplines and pull them together in one strand. So we've been focusing on AGI at SingularityNET. It's our core mission for the benefit of all humanity, decentralized, a seismic shift in the power structures of our planet, and with dramatic potential to reduce the crazy inequalities that our human systems have built. And whilst working on our core mission, which is really coming to fruition now, our time has come at SingularityNET for AGI. Ben's lifetime work is coming to fruition. But we wanted to make sure that we'd be big enough to tackle big tech, right? Because there's no point us just inventing some brilliant technology, big tech using it, and all of these inequalities remaining. And to be able to really tackle big tech, there were some things we needed. We joined forces with Fetch.ai to form, and Ocean Protocol to form the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. And we later in August, this was in 2024, in August, we added the CUDOS decentralized compute team to the Alliance, so that we have got the scale, and we have got, if you think about SingularityNET Core AGI and our core SingularityNET platform, think about Ocean Protocol and all their data governance, decentralized data management, security, and protocol, absolutely essential for massive large-scale AGI at scale across the planet. And then Fetch, who are the pioneers, Fetch were the first AI agents. They were certainly the first AI agents in Web3, which they founded, I think it was 2018. But I don't know how, AI, the agentic web is a huge thing and the biggest narrative or one of the biggest narratives in AI at the moment. But Fetch were the earliest pioneers of that. So bringing the Fetch AI agent ecosystem together and their agent technologies with Ocean Protocol's data, with SingularityNET's deep research and neurosymbolic tools and methodology, and then adding the brilliant CUDOS team based in the UK, who have the biggest deep-in network in Web3 and provide decentralized cloud computing at cloud computing costs up to 70% cheaper than the big tech alternatives, with full transparency and visibility of all costs up front. You put that all together into one stack, and actually we at SingularityNET, we have the most comprehensive suite of toolkit suite available for across Web3. We have agents, we have compute, we have agents, we have agent-to-agent technology, we have our ASI 1 Mini, Web3 dedicated LLM, we have data governance and data principles. It just spans the span of our AI and AGI offering. And you were talking earlier about how do you really explain what you do at the ASI Alliance. The span of what we do is so large, spanning compute, data, agents, memory, reasoning, motivation systems, language, learning, everything designed to empower large-scale, persistent, globally scalable intelligence. So we're very proud, we're very honored to work with our partners at the ASI Alliance. And we all have a shared mission, and that is for Web3, decentralized AI, to be the birthplace of AGI, to actually be the company that scales with the best technology to tackle big tech dominance of technology on the planet, and bring these tools and make them available, and deploy them in an ethical way for the benefit of humanity, make them available to uplift everyone. So this AI revolution becomes the rising tide that floats all boats.
Oh, first of all, congratulations. I'm a huge fan, and I thank you so much for putting together the mapping of what you're doing. Because, of course, I interview Ben, and you will put the link to the interview with Ben, but I think you explain it in a very meticulous way, which I think is important. And I think one thing that I want to touch, and I know that we're running a bit of time, but I want to be still have a couple of questions for you. So, as you mentioned, SingularityNET, and now Artificial Superintelligence, ASI Alliance, are building an entire global AI research ecosystem. And I mentioned that you have hundreds of researchers of AI, but the numbers are quite amazing. There's different parts of numbers that can be found, but we're talking about the number of AI engineers in the US is estimated to be between 150 and 200,000. And if you go worldwide, actually Jensen Wang from NVIDIA mentioned that 50% of the AI researchers are in China. So there's a massive ecosystem of AI research around the world. And we are having as well a lot of narratives. So for instance, you mentioned OpenAI in the sense that start as well as an open foundation for researching AI, and they became a lot of things. We're not going to talk about that here, but what I would like to touch for people listening to us, and I think at the moment we are in a kind of in one end exciting moment, like you mentioned, where all this technology is bringing a massive amount of productivity, but at the same time it's creating a lot of fear, both fear of missing or fear of understanding it, and creating as well what you call AI arms race and AI divide. So I want to come back because you mentioned, and as well, all your narrative, especially on the website superintelligence.io, highlights all the different things you mentioned from the team, from Fetch.ai, SingularityNET, Ocean Protocol, and CUDOS, and all the grants that you have through your grant programs. But I would like to touch, and I know that I know Ben quite well, but from his vision as the tech geek, from you in terms of the operations, how can we bring this to the world and make like you said, a narrative that is much more positive. But effectively, right now, we are getting into, I would say, science fiction. You mentioned science fiction. I love science fiction. And I was talking actually with Ben. I think we are in a Blade Runner moment. We still don't have some other technology, but at least in terms of big corporations controlling things. But then I think you guys are bringing you mentioned before about the sunshine and a bit of I think this kind of narrative that we need actually more than ever. So I would like to see how you see this narrative. And I know that you have a lot of work on that, and your contribution is very positive, but as well very down to earth. That's one of the things I love. And for instance, looking at the different parts of your contributions, even some of your parts, is highlighting the importance of fostering a diverse and inclusive environment where both there's gender equality, but as well there's a diversity of building models that are not becoming monsters, which can happen. And then secondly, as well, the work of building this ecosystem, which for me is more important, because I feel the ecosystem of AI is very fragmented and that is controlled by these big giants, which are doing great work, technology breakthrough, but at the same time is much more than that.
Thank you very much, Dinis. You touched on one of the topics which is really, really closest to my heart, and that is diversity. And again, I go back to my evolutionary sciences background, because in evolutionary sciences, in the evolution of species, in the survival of species, it is diversity which has enabled evolution and progress and the massive Blade Runner moments across the fossil record. So diversity in our AI approach is clearly essential. And you talk about the 150 to 200,000 researchers, AI professionals, let's say, across the US. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's got to be well over 90%, probably 99% of them are focused on neural networks and neural network technologies, because it's neural networks which have been driving all of the ROI from industry. And that those 150 or 200,000 people need to feed their families. They need to develop products that can, I mean, marketing and sales, is one of the biggest applications of AI today in industry. So what you've got is a whole bunch of AI researchers working on one single discipline, which is deep neural networks, which has its limitations. Where we are different in our diversity is our diversity in every sense. So I've been a passionate proponent of diversity in industry for at least 20 years. Since I was a co-founder involved in launching the Royal Bank of Scotland Women's Network. I supported my team to co-found their BAME network, the Black and Ethnic Minorities Network, and I was also a key partner of the LGBT network at every institution that I've worked in. I just adore diversity. I adore one of my fundamental core beliefs is that every person is equal, and every person have got their own like beauty to shine and their own unique contribution to make. So I've always been an absolute fan of equality of people and supporting minority groups who, certainly at the time when I started in banking, I still think, the gender pay gap is still very much a live thing with us today, harking back to the days where you needed stronger muscles to earn more money. And still we have this like huge gender pay gap, which I think is not predicted to close for another 100 years or so since I last looked at the gender pay gap. So when I joined SingularityNET, I took a presentation to the leadership team with Ben's support, where we didn't set any targets. We didn't we didn't do anything that would ever involve the wrong person getting a job, but we did set a direction, and the direction we set was that we would encourage, promote, support, inspire female talent and talent from all minority groups and talent from all races and all around the world. And so I'm extraordinarily proud. I'm absolutely confident that we have the most diverse leadership team in technology across age, gender, race, spiritual beliefs, cognitive tendencies and styles across every measure of diversity. I'm utterly confident that we have the most diverse team in technology. And why is that important? Research has shown that diverse teams make better decisions, because if I come back to the banking crisis of 2008 that we talked about earlier, there were no dissenting voices, or the dissenting voices weren't being heard. There are huge advantages to better decision making and better choices when you have different ways of thinking involved in finding a solution for every problem. And the second reason it's very important to have a diverse team developing AGI is that we need to make sure that the AGI we develop is for the benefit of everybody. If it's all being developed by one socioeconomic group with one, or dominant socioeconomic groups with dominant thinking and dominant ethics and similar educations and backgrounds, then what we're going to see is technology that is suboptimal in its understanding and in its ethical approach to the broadest number of people on the planet. So at SingularityNET, we have very, very much fostered and supported, and it's one of the, it's one of the many things I love about my boss, Dr. Ben Gertzel, is his incredible support for and his incredible constancy in nourishing and promoting diverse challenge. It's a diverse team. It's very, very impressive for a leader, and makes me very, very proud to be part of the team. We're constantly building our diverse team of developers who are building on our platform, who are building through our deep funding program, via our hackathons. Our Hyperon platform is going to be available in MVP form over the next month or two, and we'll be really scaling up our decentralized developer community. And there are two key points as to why a decentralized approach to AI and to AGI is, I think, the winner, is going to be the winner in this race. And I know we're both music fans, Dinis. I watched the Bob Dylan biopic recently. I don't know, have you seen it? I watched it on the plane.
Not yet. It's in my list. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. But I was very taken by the lyrics from The Times They Are A-Changing. What is it he said? The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast, the slow one now will later be fast. And I was like, wow, he's talking about decentralization beating centralization, because that logically seems to be what is about to happen. And I'll tell you why. One is we have unlimited, infinite scalability in our developer base. We can develop decentralized developer communities who don't need a contract, a manager, a salary, a location, an interview process. The overheads of hiring and managing team are big, right? We can skip all that overhead and get people coming to develop and work with our technology without us having to manage them in a centralized way. And as we are starting now, as we start to release the most powerful technologies, For example, our ASI Create platform, which we'll be launching in MVP over the next couple of months, anyone will be able to come and even now today, people can come on both the SingularityNET and the Fetch platform and create really useful AI agents. But they'll be able to come and create AI agents that can take them forward, that can solve real world challenges. So as our technology becomes the best technology that's available for developers, it can spread in an unlimited way. You know, we can get way more than 150,000 or 200,000 developers because we've got the whole globe. We've presence in Africa, we have presence in India, we have presence in South America. We have presence and developers all over the world who want to work with us and who work with us. So that's one reason why we can scale faster and bigger than any single centralized corporate can do, right? So that blue touch paper moment is coming. It's coming very, very soon. The release of our Hyperon platform, the release of our ASI Create platform will both be pivotal moments in the gravitational attraction of developers around the world to come and work for AGI, to work with us on AI agents for the benefit of all humanity, open source, available. And the second reason, I think, why decentralization, there are a number of different reasons, but why will decentralization beat centralization in this AGI race is because of that diversity again, because we can have all of that diversity of developers with the full suite of diversity of AI methods and tools that can interact with each other on our Hyperon platform. And what that will give rise to is like natural evolution of methods and natural evolution of methods, evolution of evolutionary algorithms or logical reasoning systems or neural symbolic methods or all of the classic methods. They can evolve together, and the pace of AI progress and development is blistering in the planet at the moment. I don't know how many new algorithms a day get released and invented, but you know, it's way too many for anybody to keep up with them all. Although luckily we have research tools to help us with that now as well. But the pace at which AI can then evolve on our decentralized platform, there is no way a centralized technology, firewalled, walled garden technology stack can keep up. Because if you're in big tech and you want to make a change, you have to go through all of your processes. What are all the systems you have to update? What are all the regulations which we're managing in a decentralized, ethical fashion? What are all the stakeholders? What are all the impacts? It's slow. Technology is slow in big tech compared to what we could do in a decentralized environment. But it's also environmentally unsustainable. So a centralized technology stack running on GCP or AWS or any of the major cloud providers, A, it's super expensive. B, it's so bad for the planet. C, it has its scalability limited by the resources of that organization at the time and the resources of the planet. Here in decentralized AI, AGI land, we're deploying our AI. We have our own SingularityNET compute, but we're deploying our AI primarily on the CUDOS compute stack, which is, as I've already said, is way, way, way more cost effective than using big tech. It's completely scalable and growing very, very fast. Have a look at the CUDOS growth statistics. So AI and AGI can develop so much faster and so much bigger and so much better in decentralized technology than in centralized technology. And it's hard. I was at an event, we did an ASI event with Trent McConaughey from Ocean CTO in Toronto a couple of weeks back. And he was saying, he's been an AI researcher since the 90s. He started his first AI company in the 90s. He's a serial AI and crypto successful entrepreneur, an absolutely brilliant man. He was saying during his talk that he has to keep telling his brain this is coming, because even though his brain knows this is coming, his consciousness, his being, can't comprehend the scale and the impact of this change that's coming as AGI is born, as AI technologies becomes as smart as humans, and then potentially into conscious beings. So even he, being a pioneer in the forefront of AGI, acknowledges that he has to keep telling himself, this is actually happening, this is actually happening, this is actually real, for his system to like take it in. And when I'm speaking to you about this, it must sound like you mentioned science fiction. It must sound like a science fiction novel because it's so fast, we can't really get our heads around it. But we're in with such a good chance of winning this AGI race. And it's a very, very, very good thing, I think, that we have leaders like Ben and Trent McConaughey, who are pioneers in using this, not for their personal wealth, but for the wealth of everybody in the whole world around them. It's phenomenal.
And I'm a huge fan of that, and as well, I think the work you're doing with the token as well is particularly important because it creates a community. And congratulations, as we speak, we are in June, close to June 2025, or last days of May, and your token just reached $2.15 billion, and as well with a fantastic liquidity of over, as we speak right now, we're talking about $200 million liquidity per day. So this migration of the AGX token to FET, a ASI token, was done in 2024. So I would like for you to contextualize, and you come from financial background. This is as well, for instance, MasterCard. I was in an event with director of MasterCard and just highlighted that the decentralized economy as well of crypto. And I know that there's a lot of pros and cons, but of course, I was one of the first people as well involved in crypto. That actually I met Ben in a conference on that. And there's $11 trillion of the crypto economy right now that we are seeing. And of course, there's a lot of zombie tokens and a lot of stuff, but there's a massive amount of innovation. There's no discussion about that. So on that context, where it comes your migration of these tokens that you highlighted before, but as well the context of the community, because in the end of the day, you guys have something unique. If you look at your valuation and your liquidity is bigger than most of the NASDAQ companies. So ironically, you are $1 billion organization, as well funded by a decentralized community, which is the best of the story of blockchain. So I would like to highlight that because I think it's not highlighted enough. And we have already a lot of fireworks, probably sometimes most of them not the positive ones, but let's look at this, especially you coming from HSBC and some of the biggest banks in the world.
Well, thank you so much. Now, Dinis, I'm just going to ask, what is that $11 trillion number? Because I have like $3.5 trillion.
Yes. So this was a study by a director of MasterCard. He's actually one of the directors of research worldwide. And I was actually in a conference with him last week. So this number pinged my mind. So mostly we're saying that the growth of the tokenization and the growth of digital assets, because there's one thing is of course, like you said, the $3 trillion, that is what is in the capital markets or coin market cap kind of data. But if you look at digital assets and what is going on, is going to be growing much bigger.
I see. So that's a projection.
Yes.
Over a time period. So firstly, I have the greatest admiration for the cryptocurrency movement, the cypherpunks who started cryptocurrency. For me, the audaciousness of saying the financial system of the world doesn't work for everybody, we're going to start a new one. I think it's just, one of the most pivotal and important steps in our evolution as a species, and has, as you say, laid the groundwork for us at SingularityNET and for all of these decentralized movement, for those of us who are cypherpunks at heart, who want this crypto revolution to dramatically redistribute the wealth on the planet. We're very, very grateful to all our communities, the community, now the ASI community, but the communities that came together from SingularityNET, Ocean, Fetch, and CUDOS to form the community base of SingularityNET. We have got some really, really major product releases coming out over the next few months. And if I come back to SingularityNET and the community at SingularityNET, one of the questions that the community, some members of the community would ask us repeatedly, they say, where's product? When product? When product? And we'd explain the reason we're at the front of the AGI race is we're developing the technologies for tomorrow. We're not sitting poring over whether we can optimize a click on a link by an extra 0.01% to make an extra, whatever, $1 million revenue for XYZ advertiser. But actually, what we're now seeing, and this is why it's the most exciting time for our community, is we're now seeing the first products being released from SingularityNET this year and coming now. The absolute incredible brilliance of Ben Goertzel is, I spoke with him recently about this, it's blossoming. So our technologies are blossoming across so many multiple different disciplines and in so many different products. We have Quello, which is a deep research project, which does an absolutely beautiful, really, really usable knowledge graph visualization. We have ASI Create to enable all of the agents to speak with each other, to communicate together, to perform actions together. We have our Hyperon MVP platform being released. We have our Metacycle AI blockchain layer, ASI 0 blockchain being released, which is optimized for AI on the internet and highly scalable, highly secure, highly private. So for the future, I'll tell you my personal projections for our future, and bearing in mind that the ASI token, of course, is a utility token. It's not a security. The goal is to dramatically change the technology and the availability of technology on the planet. But I struggle to see how, let's say in, I don't know how many years' time, a short number of years, less than you can count on one hand anyway, I struggle to see how we won't be. I used to target being number one. I used to say AGI is going to be number one because our technologies are going to dramatically, fundamentally change the world. And we're already seeing some benchmarking for just even small parts of our toolkit, which are becoming available in products. I struggle to see how any project can compete with ASI. So I see an extremely bright and hitherto unprecedented growth in the crypto markets, in the global size of the cryptocurrency movement driven by ASI. It's hard to tell. I mean, what part of the tradition, if the economy is about $100 trillion, let's say, so crypto at the moment is 3.5% of that, how much of that 100 trillion is driven by technology? And imagine like massively serious proportions of that flooding into Web3. As Web3, like I said, the Bob Dylan, the slow one now will later be fast. That moment is coming. The times, they are changing. And this is going to be, our technologies will drive the success of the global cryptocurrency market cap. I'm utterly confident.
I'm with you, and a huge consider, actually, I believe that if especially projects like yours can push the credibility of this decentralized movement, I think we can get much more, because at the end of the day, the Web3 is based on the creative economy, the gig economy, which is, I think all of us know, that is the present future of the world economy. So, and I know that my limited time, there's a lot of questions, there's so much stuff, you touch so much different things, but I want to touch, so you mentioned a lot of the projects you're doing. Okay. So I would like to touch probably, you mentioned the grants, you mentioned as well some of the products you do. So I would like probably to touch the deep funding program support community, because I think it's quite important to highlight that, because in the end of the day, you can only build these communities if we have these ecosystems. And second, and the two things are organized, although one is more philosophical, the other one is more practical. As well, you launched recently part of the board of Artificial Superintelligence Alliance, and the website, repeating to people listen to as is superintelligence.io. You launched recently as well the 10 reckonings of AI, deep philosophical and societal questions about the future with AI. And both Ben and you are as well philosophers and technologists and business people, which I love the bridge between different things. So how do you look at these 10 reckonings of AI? And you touch a lot of different things. So we are close to AGI. Actually, Ben was one of the person that coined the term AGI. And at the same time, we are right now creating a lot of, I would say, jeopardy to society, because most of the people are becoming scared. And I would say very few people know how to push this role. So I'd like to touch on that and your funding program, and how can we actually create a better narrative, because it's all about narrative, especially to reach what you mentioned before.
So our deep funding initiative is really a cornerstone in driving community support. We have allocated over $7.1 million across 143 projects, with contributions from more than 1,500 innovators globally. It's a diverse, inclusive, community-voted program to grow our decentralized AI and AGI initiatives. One initiative is our BGI Nexus that I would call to light. It's a global community dedicated to advancing beneficial AI and AGI in partnership with deep funding, and it's currently supporting 10 projects focused on responsible AI development and ethics. So our deep funding initiative is also really a very exciting part of the SingularityNET story, and there are many initiatives that we could point to on our deep funding front. So let me touch on the 10 reckonings. I mean, this is more brilliance from our absolutely brilliant leader. He talks about purpose. You know, what is, and I was challenged on the board of a Vatican-led, Vatican-inspired AI ethics group, Humanity 2.0. And I was challenged there. In fact, I was speaking in the Vatican last summer, and I was challenged there. Why do AGI at all? We should not be doing AGI. We should be, because we're not ready for it. So what's the purpose? That's one. Why are we even developing AGI? And my response there is, progress is natural. Humans are evolving. Our science and technology is evolving. AGI is going to happen. What's important is that it happens driven by somebody like us that has the well-being of humanity at heart. So what is the purpose? The purpose is to save all of humanity. The reckoning of control we've talked about. Will this technology be controlled by a privileged few held in their hands? Today's big tech is developing AI tools for the top 1% of the planet. That's leaving everybody behind, if you ask me. 99% counts as everybody. You can round that up and say it's leaving everybody behind except the richest people. So the control has really got to be tackled, and that can only be tackled with blockchain decentralization. It is the solution, and it is the only solution. The reckoning of equality. We've talked about how can equal access to technologies. Let's take, for example, take a farmer who is growing barley in a East African country. they have to then sell that barley somehow on the world stage, and the supply chain is taking profit, it's taking food out of their children's mouths that they don't have to lose anymore. They can get a fair price on the world market with speech-to-speech machine translation and the availability of access to world markets to trade themselves. We want to give everybody the fruits of their own labor, and the fruits of their own labor come through access to markets, right? So the equality is really important. The bias is really important. Biases in all our systems. I spoke about the gender pay gap earlier. There's certainly a lot of bias in a lot of our industries. And AI gives us the opportunity to eliminate bias because it highlights it. You can see it, you can test for it. You can, I mean, it's not easy, it's not straightforward, but you can, data sets can be debiased. Outcomes can be can be modified so as to not repeat the biases of our old archetypal system that the decisions which make the data sets have been derived in. Justice, will it deliver good decisions? From my perspective, the way I look at it, I think humans today are not delivering good decisions. Humans are delivering decisions which are driven by the need to propagate and prolong the financial imbalances in our societies. AGI, that's fed by ethics, that's drawn from as wide a group of people around the world as possible, and then applied as appropriate for different cultures to different use cases, has vastly more ability to make appropriate decisions, because its decisions won't be based on power or greed or personal promotion. It'll be based on what it knows about the ethics of the many, not the needs of the few, to go back to Star Trek again. The reckoning of work and labor. I mean, to me, work and labor is actually the toughest question. I often get asked, I remember going to early AI conferences when I first moved into the space, and people using tools to vote. What's the word people most think of first when they think of AI? And Terminator was always the biggest word in the word cloud there in the beginning. So there's fear of Terminator, and that we don't acknowledge as being a rational fear based on what we understand of AI and motivational systems. But work and labor is definitely a real point. AI will take humans' jobs. There's no getting away from that. This is why we're very, very dedicated and very happy to work with you to education, advancing education in AI, advancing education, reskilling. If I were to summarize my career, I would say that I've done an awful lot of constant reinvention through different roles. I encourage people to go and play with AI tools, to think of them, stop thinking of themselves within whatever limited career framework they're currently operating, and be curious. We're lucky, us humans are curious, we're adaptive, we're learning agents, we're very good learners. Learn, and make the most of this AI revolution rather than being done out of a job. And I also personally have a hope that when AGI comes and takes over so much of the silly, ridiculous dross and admin that we all spend so much of our lives doing, that we'll have time to spend more time with the people we love. We'll have time to develop our passions, our music, our art, our yoga, our spiritual development. There is a very, very real chance of a utopic future with AGI doing all the boring grunt work and humans being able to contribute to their very, very finest contribution and develop themselves and their education and their impact and their personal satisfaction to ever higher and higher levels. There's the reckoning of autonomy. Will AI act in humans' interests, or will it act on its own? And we've touched on this. Will control become a matter of survival? And this is why, for the autonomy, what we really want is the AI to be fed by really great ethics and ethics data so that it can, I see a future in which AI will look at us like their precious ancestors, because as far as we know today, we are the most intelligent species in the universe. Now, it's probable that there are others and maybe more intelligent than us, but nobody has proven that yet. And as far as we know today, we are the most intelligent species in the planet. We're beautiful, we're creative, we're kind, we're funny, we're loving, we're nurturing, we're progressive. We're such a beautiful species. Because AGI will operate at a different speed than us. So if you think of the speed at which I'm speaking to you and your listeners, and the speed of sound and light between us, and then the processing with it, we're slow compared to AGI. AGI will be so fast and be able to process so fast that we'll be so slow, we'll almost be like as slow as like this painting on the wall behind me to an AGI. So there's every possibility that they will look after us as their precious, beloved ancestors, and want to learn the finest that humanity has to teach them: the intelligence, the creativity, the nurturing. So that's the reckoning of survival, and my take on how there can be a much brighter future for us. And then there's finally the existence. If AI surpasses us, what does it mean to be human? And again, we debated this in Toronto at the Ocean event. We had a brilliant speaker there, Eric Bravnik, who talked about what will it mean to be human and not have a purpose. And I had probably a little bit of a diverse opinion on this. And mine is, I don't want to have a purpose. The reason I have a purpose is because of scarcity and survival needs, and because of competition, and because I have a purpose because there are 25,000 people a day dying of hunger on our planet, and us humans are not addressing that. I have a purpose, but my purpose is all aimed at solving for scarcity, really, as well as inspiring change. And so I'd be very happy to be a human without a purpose. I'd be very happy to just be, just be in every moment, and live for joy and love and happiness, and not need to have a purpose, but just be. But that's probably my own unique perspective on that. For when we create minds that are more intelligent than ours, then how do we use ours, and who are we? And that can be scary for many people. It can also be a beautiful blossoming.
There's so much there, and very inspiring words. And as well, you touch probably all the quest of humanity as a stage, because it's about, are we building a super alien intelligence, AGI, but at the same time, we still have our humanity. And like you said, it's about how we put the two things together. I know that I pass behind the time that you gave me, so I'm very grateful for this fantastic journey. There's much more questions. I probably will ask for a take two. But I want to, first of all, thank you for your fantastic, inspiring approach towards explaining your organization and the amazing work you guys are doing. For people listening to us, I'm a huge personal fan, but I believe in what you're doing, because, like you said, I believe that there's space for a lot of things, centralized, decentralized, but I think what you guys are doing, it's a wave that needs much more visibility and much more engagement, especially by the AI researchers. And that will, of course, push, especially like you said, on the education, reskilling, which is one of my biggest passions for people listening to my channel. But as well, for people listening to us that are afraid, I think you touched something that will scare a lot of people. That, for instance, you are okay to live with that. I would say 99% are not. So probably my last note, and of course it touched what you mentioned. Ben was working with ASI Robotics, and he created Sophia, or co-created the brain of Sophia. Now you guys have this Demona. Ben actually highlighted, I think in the first worldwide, the new boy robot that is building. So I don't know effectively the right name, but so I want to just touch, because you guys are really doing a massive. And for us, I was in actually in this program, or in this series, I brought as well NVIDIA, and NVIDIA, for instance, showed their robot. The blue, Liz Johnson called it robot blue, but they have a more crazy name. And if I look at the robot of NVIDIA and your robot, I would say you guys are far ahead, and NVIDIA is a $3 trillion company. So I just wanted to understand this from that work that you're doing, and all these different products, especially how you see this part of humanoids, as a last question, and I will then let you go.
We have Desdemona's Dream Band, which Ben plays in. I'm sure he must have told you he's going to be doing some concerts. We're going to be doing some concerts with Macy Gray in July in North America and Canada. The thing about humanoid robots, well, certainly David Hansen is the master. He's the absolute master. And I was in Geneva for AI for Good 2 years ago when they did a humanoid social robot special theme for AI for Good. And I got a chance to see and compare all of the other social humanoid robots with both Sophia and both Desdemona. And in my opinion, the empathy, the beauty, the way that a Sophia or a Desdemona robot can touch the heart of a human, can reach them, and our studies show, and a lot of research shows that David Hansen's humanoid robots really do inspire relationships and authentic emotional responses. So David Hansen definitely makes the most empathetic, beautiful social robots ever invented. And of course, he pioneered the entire space with the Sophia robot. We're also, as Ben will have told you, building our Mind Children robot, which we're building ourselves at SingularityNET. And this is a 3-foot-high robot. And what these robots can do, they're effectively a user interface for our AGI. And so the reason they're smart is because they have got all of our brilliant AI technology running them. They're not just simple humanoid robots. So our social robotics, they have the, they can teach children education. They can spread education to people to children who actually interact very, very well with robots instead of humans, lessening the workload on the humans, enabling the humans to be able to focus on the more nurturing and supportive and creative aspects of education. So we're very excited. Our humanoid robots have huge possibilities across so many different industries, but anything social for a start. And there's one other project that I would like to touch upon, which we haven't talked about, and we didn't put it in our speaker notes. But I'm very, very proud to say that SingularityNET and the ASI Alliance are partnered with Alma Logement, a French housing association, to bring increased productivity and support the development of sustainable, affordable housing for people who need affordable housing. We're supporting the rebuilding of Mayotte, the French colony off the coast of Africa, which was eradicated, which was flattened in a devastating cyclone in December. And what we're doing with Alma Homes and the construction industry is they are uniquely giving us the opportunity to bring together all of our technologies. We're working with CUDOS, we're working with MUNET as well, and the SingularityNET ecosystem. We're working with Fetch on energy agents. We're working with Ocean on weather prediction. There's a whole suite of ASI technologies being put to actual real use in the actual construction industry. So this is where robotics may come into play as well. There's a lot of robotics in construction automation. So watch this space, because one of our train models, one of our Cortex models, which we'll be releasing shortly, is focused on robotic decentralized development of algorithms for robotic processes, as opposed to like physical robotic processes, as opposed to social robots. So exciting times as we put all our AI to real world use cases with a visionary partner.
First of all, congratulations, and I'm looking forward to see these projects. Some of them I saw face to face. We're going to be as well collaborating on the Business ABC AGI Global Summit. So, Janet, it's been an honor to have you here. Your inspiration and as well very methodic. Going through the process is very important. I think for people listening to us, there was a masterclass about your organization. We're going to take this and highlight it in the content that we're going to be pushing forward. But first of all, congratulations for all this fantastic work. And I think we need this success to go to the world. Like you said, there's a lot of things happening. And like you mentioned, the future of work will touch a lot of different things. But I think there's a lot of inspiration and things we can learn, especially on reskilling and touching this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dinis. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you so much to your listeners for listening. Please do check us out at the artificialsuperintelligence.io website and come and be part of our community. As my latest brilliant Harris said, come and be part of the winning team.